So the 49ers, just got to a Super Bowl, and they've been sort of the reigning West Coast power for a long time. And they're a very popular franchise. They're a little bit like the Yankees out east, where in the summer everybody's wearing a Yankee hat. Out west, it's a lot of Dodgers and a lot of San Francisco 49er hats. So it's a huge brand. They fill stadiums home or away. And now I'm seeing a lot of stories now blaming the coach, Kyle Shanahan. Late game management is the reason, says an NFL executive to The Athletic. I want to discuss that for a second. And Deebo Samuel is supporting him. But it's funny about blame. For years, Andy Reid, for years in Philadelphia, everybody knew he was smart. But he got called a terrible clock management coach. Oh, just the worst. And then Andy Reid got Patrick Mahomes, and that all disappeared. And Brady and Belichick, for years, the Niners were the best clock management, efficient, situational football team in the world. And then Tom Brady went to Tampa. And Belichick looked like every other coach in the league with an average quarterback. Penalties, clock management, losing games they led in the fourth quarter. Funny how that works, isn't it? So when your quarterbacks in San Francisco for Kyle Shanahan are Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy, who, by the way, may be a great fit. He's not a great quarterback. Brock Purdy doesn't erase your mistakes. Lamar Jackson does. John Elway did. Brady did. Peyton Manning did. Breeze did. Marino did. They erase mistakes. LeBron's done this. LeBron has erased a lot of bad coaching moves for a long time in the NBA.
Okay. Let's talk about this. There's a few things that, this conversation, unfortunately, it all depends on, are you team quarterback or team coach? And I'm team both, honestly. You can't be great without a great coach, and you can't be a great coach without a great quarterback. In a lot of ways, they're one and the same. I've been through this a lot. I won't go through the list now, but the vast, like 70-80% of Super Bowls are won by Hall of Fame coaching and Hall of Fame quarterbacking. But the problem is when you hear some of the things that Colin says, a lot of people who are fans of individual quarterbacks will use that to be like, well, see, that coach was never that good. That quarterback made him that good. And that's just not the reality of the situation, because Lamar Jackson has not overcome his bad coaching. I don't think so at all. He erases some of the issues, but I think coaching has significantly held him back. Lamar Jackson would be even better if he had a coach like Shanahan. Not a doubt in my mind. There is not a single doubt in my mind. Andy Reid would be making Lamar Jackson even better. Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, not a doubt in my mind. Not a single doubt in my mind. So that's why it's a legitimate two-way street. It is the definition of a complementary win-win relationship, great coaching, great quarterback play. Now, like anything, if you're a great coach, you can help elevate an average or bad quarterback, and vice versa. If you're a great quarterback, you can help elevate a bad coach, and you can erase some of the coaching's mistakes. It's a complementary piece in the puzzle here. It's not one or the other. But a lot of people will hear something like, "Oh, Andy Reid had problems until he got Mahomes. Therefore, Mahomes made Andy." And it's like, that's not the reality. And when people also hear that statement, then they don't then understand what Andy did for Mahomes. And again, just look what Sean McVay did for Stafford. Like this isn't just unique just to kind of like an Andy Reid or even Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I also think that there is an absolute legitimate category of coaches who are going to be special. Their special will be when they are combined with truly great players, compared to another coach who's really good at elevating other players, but maybe not necessarily pulling the strings of the already existing great players. We've seen that especially in sports like basketball. Coaches like Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr, they're not great at developing. They're not great at getting the most amount of juice out of the lower level players. But boy, are they great at maximizing and getting the most amount of juice out of the greatest players that exist. You know, like that is a real different type of skill set that when you're hiring coaches, they talk about this a lot when you actually dig into the details of trying to find coaches. They talk about that different coaches are better or worse at different aspects of managing talent, elevating, dealing with younger players versus more mature seasoned veterans. It's not this all or nothing thing. It's really not. Now some great coaches can do a little bit of everything, but it's not this all or nothing approach. So with Shanahan, it is interesting that when things are going poorly, right, everybody does just they just rise to the top and everybody wants to point fingers at everybody. And before Colin said Andy Reid, I was like, oh man, I was going to say Andy Reid. And that will probably forever be the best example of a situation like that, considering Andy Reid going to Kansas City, right, and winning, and obviously now winning all these Super Bowls and building a dynasty. When he was fired in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia did genuinely want him out. And I actually was just talking to someone in the comment section about late game management and all of that. But again, I understand that McNabb wasn't this trash quarterback, and some people want to argue that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but it just can't be argued that if Andy Reid had a quarterback that was about 5% better, or had a wide receiver outside of T.O. for just 1 year, his story in Philly would be written differently, just like Shanahan's would be. I mean, you think if Shanahan had I mean, again, Jimmy Garoppolo, we can say what we will about Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, and I'm a huge defender of Brock Purdy. I made many, many, many videos defending Brock Purdy, who he is, what he can be. But even so, when Shanahan has had the success with Purdy, it was within the first 2 years of Purdy's career. So even that alone limits you, just in terms of like who you can be that early on as your quarterback. Even if Purdy ends up being this all-time great, expecting him to be all-time great in those first 2 years is a difficult situation. So he now was in a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, which quite frankly is remarkable, and then got to back-to-back, NFC Championship games and then a Super Bowl with a first and second year last pick in the draft, Brock Purdy. That really is remarkable. It can't be understated. And it's just not hard to imagine that if Shanahan had a legitimate, established veteran quarterback at those times who was like a top 10 quarterback, like of course, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, probably triggered a lot of people there. Justin Herbert, he would win a Super Bowl. He would win 2 Super Bowls. You don't think if the 49ers had a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have been able to win that Super Bowl, considering how close it was with just Jimmy G in the first place? I mean, of course. Of course. And Brock Purdy, in that Super Bowl, I've said that he was not the reason why they lost. A lot of things went wrong for them to lose, and all of them needed to happen, clearly, because that's the way how the Super Bowl unfolded. They needed the fumble, the muff punt, or again, muff kickoff, whatever it was, muff punt, Greenlaw injury. Like, it needed to be all of those things just for them to barely lose the Super Bowl. But if Brock Purdy was 5% better in that Super Bowl, they win. And we can either say, well, listen, as he gets older and matures, he will be able to be that 5% better. That's a total fair statement to make. Totally fair. Because I'm not expecting a quarterback to reach their peak in their first or second year of being in the NFL. That's just not how it works. So then we could say, well, then it was just bad timing for him to have Brock Purdy at that moment and that roster, and it was just like a little uneven. It was just, their powers that be did not align as much as you would want them to be. But if you give Shanahan a 5% better quarterback, or just a quarterback that's already in year 4, year 5, more established, more developed, maybe more physical, whatever it may be, is it really hard to imagine that the 49ers win that Super Bowl? I mean, even mega super fan Nick Wright of the Kansas City Chiefs would even admit it. Now, again, granted, he doesn't like Brock Purdy, so it's kind of like a thing that now not only knocks Purdy down, but also kind of defends the 49ers in the same way. So, it's not the perfect messenger, but it's just not hard to imagine that. And then again, now he wins. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach, and now he's not getting all of this hate. And it's not to say that Shanahan is flawless and Shanahan doesn't make mistakes. It's not to say that at all. But I think it's also kind of like, it's hard to be perfect in an imperfect situation. And the 49ers have had a lot of gifts. They've had a lot of weapons. They've had some stacked rosters, right? Like they are a highly, highly, highly run franchise. But it is remarkable when you think about getting to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it is. And that is a testament to the construction of the roster and Shanahan making that happen. And I'm sorry, Brock Purdy, especially his first 2 years in the league, absolutely, positively, undeniably benefited from having Shanahan. If you think Brock Purdy steps up to be the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers and he's leading them to back-to-back NFC championships, it's just not happening. It's just not. And again, I literally just made a whole video a few days ago defending Brock Purdy about how, stop, give Brock Purdy his flowers now that you put in a backup quarterback and they look all awful. So again, I am a Brock Purdy fan. I am a proponent of him. But we have to have the honest discussion of how all of these variables and influences are influencing each other. It's not one or the other. It's never one or the other. And it's okay to say if this team had a better quarterback, a better coach, a better this, a better that, then they would have won. People take that for some reason that they're insulted by it, or they take it as a personal dig. After the Super Bowl, when I said, oh, if Brock Purdy just played 5% better, they would have won. People were they lost their mind. What are you talking about? Brock Purdy's the best, this, that. And it's it can't be denied. If he just played a little bit incrementally better, they win that Super Bowl. They win that Super Bowl. It's not to say that he's the reason why they lost. There's a difference. If he played a little bit better and won, it's not the same as saying that he didn't play good enough to win. They're different statements. They have different meanings, different contexts to it. And so again, like anything, these are complicated conversations. I mean, football teams have, just an insane amount of moving parts. An insane amount of moving parts. So when they're suffering right now, everybody wants to hold everyone else accountable. Nobody ever wants to take blame. Never. Never, 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 never. And, in a lot of ways, Andy Reid was used as a scapegoat in Philly for their failures. Right? It was clock management. That's why they didn't win. It had nothing to do with roster construction, any of the players. Having 1 year, you gave Andy Reid an actual, legitimate, bona fide wide receiver when you had McNabb in his prime. And what happened? They immediately went to a Super Bowl. Immediately. It's that's how that works. And then any of the other years was this weird, bizarre, okay, you got Deshaun Jackson or something, but now it's is Vic the quarterback? It was at that point things were just starting to get significantly more messy. But when they were obviously at their peak, when they went to 4 straight NFC championship games, only 1 year did they have a legitimate, bona fide, great wide receiver, and they went to the Super Bowl. So all of these things matter. The 49ers have obviously been flushed with talent, and since they have not been able to get over that hump and win that Super Bowl, and now that they're having a bad season, 5-6 because of injuries, the knives are out. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the 49ers, Shanahan, and kind of all the issues that are now kind of, being exposed? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.